But we're gonna get started for today. Just again, I have a mini band with me today, but I also have a regular band that I have set up kind of around an anchor point, whether it's a post or a banister or a doorknob. Those are the two pieces of equipment for today. But we're going to get started by warming up. The past couple of sessions we've been starting with the classic skier movement, so we're going to go back to that skate skier movement, which is more of a lateral movement. We're going down, across, and then up. You can do this motion a lot slower if you're feeling like the balance on one foot is a challenge. You really want to try and drop your hips down, hold for a moment in that balanced position, come across, pick your opposite foot up, balance using your glutes and your core to feel strong before coming up. And if you feel like you're able to balance more confidently in those positions, in both the low and the high positions on each side, you can try and speed it up a little bit and even add a little bit of kind of like a bounce or a hop on each end. But if you're finding that the balance is challenging, just slow it down so that you kind of challenge yourself to hold the balance in both those high and low positions on each side. You can even add in your arms as if you were one skating here, and try and get a little bit of flow as we mimic our ski motion here. We're gonna go for a couple more times, just getting the body warmed up a little bit today. I don't know about you guys, but it's feeling a little chilly today in Ottawa, hitting those negative digits this morning, so extra reason to want to warm up. Good, let's go one last time, and then we can relax. We're going to find a spot where we have a little bit of room, and we're going to do an inchworm. So we're going to get a nice hamstring stretch by reaching our hands down to the ground. We're going to walk our hands forward, coming into a plank position, and then we're going to walk our toes in to our hands. So you're going to really test the limits of your hamstring, your forward fold. Once you've done one, step back to your start position, and then restart that walking hands out. Hold plank position for just a moment, and then walk your toes back in. We're going to do 5 of these here today. So every time you find yourself back in that standing position, you can take a step back and restart your inchworm, or you can continue moving just in a straight line if you have lots of space to move with. We're going to keep on going. You might feel your hamstrings start to warm up a little bit. They might feel a little bit more comfortable the more you do. I'm doing one more here to get my 5. So if you're keeping pace with me, then this is your last inchworm. Good work. From our inchworms, we're going to do another more complex stretching exercise. We're going to reach one foot out as if we were going to come into a lunge position. We're then going to bring our opposite hand down to the ground right next to our foot so that we're getting the side twist. We're going to come up and we're going to step back with our feet together. Other side, step your foot forward. Opposite hand comes down to the ground. Bring it back up and then step your feet back together. We're going to go 5 times on each side, moving at a pace that works for you so that you can feel like you're confident moving from one foot to the other, feeling a nice stretch. Maybe you're feeling it in your glutes. Maybe you're feeling it in your back. This stretch will feel a little bit different for everyone, depending on where your personal tightnesses are. We're going to do this one a couple more times. If you feel like it's really good, just to pause for a second in that twist position and hold that for a moment. You can definitely pause there for just a moment and enjoy that twist. Or if you feel like it's nice to keep moving fluidly through it, you can keep moving fluidly through it as well. I'm going to do one more on each side before we switch to the next exercise. And there we go. Good work. All right, our next exercise, we're going to grab our mini band or a circular band. So if you have one of these, that's great. If you don't, that's totally fine. We're going to take that mini band, we're going to put it around our knees or just above our knees. We're going to come down onto our side. You can support your head with your shoulder or with your hands. My shoulders, hips, and feet are all in a straight line, and I'm lifting my top knee up as high as I can. And I'm going to repeat that motion And I'm going to use my top hand to make sure that my hip isn't going anywhere when I'm doing this clamshell. So it's easy to kind of cheat this exercise by rolling your hips back when you're trying to lift your knee. The harder part of this exercise is trying to keep your hip totally perpendicular to the ground, stacked one on top of the other, and just moving your knee through this movement. We're really aiming to activate that gluteus medius muscle here today. Once you've done about 10, you can switch to the other side. So I'm going ahead and switching now. Changing my orientation a little bit so you can see how my feet are in line with my hips, are in line with my shoulders, and how my hips are staying still as I lift my knee. And if this is too challenging with the band on, you don't have to do this with a band. The band just gives you a little bit of extra resistance to push into, to really make sure you can feel those glutes work hard for you through this whole range of motion. Nicely done, everybody. Good. Now this gluteus medius activation that we're doing right now is going to really help us with our next exercise. Not to rush you, you can finish off your 10 here. Once we're done here, we're going to go to our back lunge to knee up. And when we're trying to balance on one leg, we really want to try and activate that gluteus medius. So once you're done your 10, you can come on up to a standing position. And I'm going to demonstrate here your back lunge to knee up. So this is an exercise we've done a lot in our SkiStrong program. It's really, really great to work dynamic stability in the hip and balance. We're going to start with our feet together. We're going to reach one foot back. You can either put the toe down or keep it off the ground for an added challenge. You're going to come down as low as you can, keeping the middle of the knee over the middle of the foot, and then come on through. If you need to touch down in the middle, that's fine. Otherwise, go straight through to the top. So we're going back lunge to knee up. And we're really focusing on engaging our gluteus medius on our standing legs. So that muscle that we were just working on the clamshell, we're going to keep working that muscle. And we're also going to engage the core to try and keep us in a nice, stable, balanced position. If you're finding that your balance is a little bit off, slowly exercise down and focus on the muscles that you need to activate. So the glutes, the core, to really create a lot of stability. If you're feeling more confident, you can add a nice little bit of a pop at the top of the movement to really engage those glutes at the top. There you go. Once you've done 10 on one side, we're going to switch it up. 10 on the other side. Still focusing on middle of the knee over middle of the toe as our primary cue for this exercise. Big focus on balance, but also big focus on continuing to activate the glutes and keeping the core engaged while we move through this dynamic range of motion. As much as it's awesome to have good balance, just standing still on one leg, when we're trying to ski, we're always moving. We're always moving forward, but we're also always moving our body. We're very rarely just standing still on our skis, waiting for balance to come. We're always moving our legs or our arms, and we need to be able to have those muscles that help us balance, be able to engage while we're moving. Nicely done. We're going to take this back to the top. Warm-up exercises round 2. Starting with the skate skiers. Maybe you'll feel a little bit more confident with your balance this time through the skate skiers. Maybe you'll feel like you can add those arms in a little bit more confidently and go through that full range of motion without touching down. Maybe you're still taking it nice and slow, balancing in all the different ranges of motion. Either way, whatever's working best for you. Excellent job, everybody. Let's do one more on each side here. Hopefully you're starting to get warmed up. We're going to come on back to those inchworms. So find a spot, reaching your hands down to the ground, walking your hands out, holding plank position for a moment, walking your toes into your hands. Once your hands and feet are together, coming up to standing, and then take a step back. Hands down to the ground, walking your hands out, holding plank position, walking your toes into your hands, and then standing up. Good job. We're going to do that 3 more times for a total of 5. Work at your own pace though. If you want to go slower, hold in any of these positions so that feels really nice, then that's awesome. You can go ahead, hold wherever it feels good to hold, or keep moving through a nice dynamic pace. I'm on my last one now. So you can finish off these inchworms. And then our next one that we're getting ready for is that lunge with twist. So the lunge with twist, you're gonna reach one foot out, bring the opposite hand down to the ground, other hand up to the sky, bring it back, and then bring yourself all the way back to your starting position. Lunge forward, opposite hand down to the ground, nice big twist before coming back to the start. Nicely done. Maybe this feels a little bit looser, a little bit less tight than it did the first time because your body is feeling a little bit less stiff, a little bit more warmed up. And if that's the case, then that's awesome, that's great. Keep it up. I'm gonna do one more on each side here. And once we finish this one, our next exercise is the clamshells with the mini band. So once you've done your lunges with twists, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna grab your mini band. And we're gonna bring it down to the ground, the mini band coming just above the knees, lying on your side. Again, my feet, hips, and shoulders are all in line. My knees are slightly forward. My hands are on my hip, and I'm lifting that knee up as high as I can without rolling my hips back. And we're going for 10 on each side here, or approximately 10. It's okay if you're going a little bit slower or a little bit faster than me. It's okay, we're getting around 8 to 12, somewhere near 10 is perfect for these warm-up exercises. It's less about the number and more about actually activating the muscles that we need in our workout today. Once you've got approximately 10, you can roll over to the other side. So I'm going ahead and switching over to the other side now. Same setup, feeling that gluteus medius activating. And our next exercise really is going to continue to focus on activating that gluteus medius for balance. So that's why we can pair this clamshell really nicely with that back lunge to knee up. So we really focus on isolating that gluteus medius muscle in the clamshell, and then we're going to use it in more of a dynamic, full body movement in just a moment with that back lunge to knee up. Good, all right, I'm moving on from my clamshells now. Our last warm-up exercise for today is our back lunge to knee up. So whenever you're ready, you can get into that setup position, starting by lunging back. You can challenge yourself by not putting your toe down right away, seeing how far back you can go without putting your toe down, or you can put your toe down right away and then slowly lunge down. Either way, you want to find a modification that works well for you to be able to find balance and control of that front knee. So you want that front leg to have middle of the knee over middle of the toe. We're going again for approximately 10 on each side. But if you're moving a little bit slower, you might not get as many. If you're moving a little bit faster, you might get more, and that's totally fine. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to switch to the other side here. There we go, and I'm switching sides. You can use your arms to help with the fluidity of this movement. So I'm going opposite arm, opposite leg as I lunge down and knee up. And you can even add some crispness and some punch to the arms if you're trying for that more punchy knee up glute engagement at the top. So you're gonna keep on going at whatever pace works for you, and we're getting approximately 10 on each side. I'm going for my last one here, and good work. We're gonna get ready for our workout. So our workout has 3 exercises. Our first exercise, we're going to be using the band. So I've got my band anchored around a post right here. You can have your band anchored somewhere else. And the next 2, we're going to get there in just a second. We're going to start here with our first exercise. We're going to have our band, if you can, attached a little bit lower than normal. If you can't change the attachment point of your band, that's totally fine. We're going to have one foot in front of the other, so we're in a nice split stance here. And the band is across from our body. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually pull the band across our body so that we're going from like lower hip to next to your ear. And when we're doing this, we're really engaging the core and engaging the hips, engaging the shoulders so that our core doesn't move. Our core is staying still and we're moving through our arms. This is a challenging exercise, so modify it as much as you need to. If you bring yourself closer to your anchor point and your band is less tight, this exercise will be easier. If you bring yourself farther from your anchor point, your band is tighter, this exercise will be harder. Nice, we're gonna get about 8 to 10 on each side, and there we go. I'm gonna go and switch over to the other side now. When you switch sides, you can make sure that you continue to have the same kind of pattern of leg forward and back. So I have my farthest leg forward and my closest leg back. So I'm going to keep that pattern and now switch to pulling from my opposite hip to my opposite ear. And when I'm doing this, I might feel like the band wants to pull me in, and then my job is to resist that pulling. You want to feel like you really have to work hard against the band to make sure that your core is staying in a neutral, strong position here. I call this one split stance with band pull acrosses. So you can see here, we're just trying to keep the core nice and steady as we pull the band across. Nicely done. All right, we're gonna keep that band anchored where it is, so stay where you are. You can, a couple of options, you can either take both sides of the band in one hand to make this exercise harder, or you can hold the band one side in each hand to make this exercise easier. We're gonna stand on one leg now, and we're gonna row with the opposite arm. So if I have my right leg standing, my left leg is trying to stay up off the ground, although you can touch it down like a kickstand if you need it. I'm gonna row with my opposite hand. So I'm going a single leg band row here. I'm feeling my shoulder really pull back behind me. Hand comes through the rib cage, so just like the bottom of your rib cage there, so you're not pulling your hand to your shoulder, pulling it nice and low down, and I'm feeling my whole body, my whole upper back work to pull my shoulder blade and my hand back together here. We're gonna go 8 to 10 again on each side. If you want to make this exercise easier, you can go closer to your anchor point. If you want to make it harder, you can go further away. Once you get that 8 to 10, let's switch sides. So now I'm going to take my left foot, here's my foot that I'm standing on. My right leg is balancing, or I can put my toe down just for a little bit of a kickstand if I need it. And I'm going to pull that hand through my rib cage and feel like everything in my upper back is working to pull my shoulder blade more towards my spine, my elbow, my hand back behind me. So we're doing a single leg banded row. This is a really challenging exercise. We're working our leg a little bit here because we've got just a little bit of a bend in it. We're working our hips to get that balance. Our core is working to make sure that the band isn't pulling us all wonky, and our shoulder, our upper back is working to actually pull the band. So it's a challenging exercise. And once you get 8 to 10, we're gonna let that band go. Awesome job. So for our last exercise, I'm coming back to our mini band here. So I'm taking this mini band, and I'm stepping inside of it, bringing the mini band to just above my knees again. And we're going to continue to focus on activating those gluteus medius muscles today. We're going to do a squat with the band. So the depth of your squat really just depends on your range of motion and your comfort level. You can try and aim to bring your hips to about your knee height, and you're going to aim to keep your chest tall and your back nice and flat. You want to try and avoid rounding through your upper back. You want to think about keeping your shoulders back, dropping your hips down. We're going to go 1, 2, down, 1, 2, up, 1, 2, down, 1, 2, up. Now we're doing this with the band so that my knees can press into the band to help activate my glutes. The band wants to pull my knees in, and I have to work to continue to pull the band or to push the band out. So we're going to do approximately 8 to 10 of these here, moving at your own speed. If you need to slow it down a little bit, that's okay. You really want to focus on being able to keep those knees, middle of the knee, over middle of the feet, and feeling a little bit extra in your glutes because the band is there. Good work, everyone. I'm going to do 2 more here. I nicely lost count, so hopefully you're at about 10. Good work, and we're going to pull that band off, and we're going to come back to the top of our strength circuit. We're doing that 3 times today. So that first exercise that we have, we come back to that band that we've got attached. We're going to come split stance, 1 foot forward, 1 foot backwards. Core is strong. You can even think about tucking your hips under a little bit to make sure you're not arching your back. And we're pulling the band across our body. This is a really good upper body, kind of working our shoulders to pull the band, core to resist being pulled in the direction of the band. We have to really think about our core staying tight. And then we're also working our legs a little bit. So this is a good full body exercise for you. Nicely done. And again, if you're able to anchor your band to where you can bring it from one bottom of your hip to up over your head, that's ideal. But just work with what you have. We're just creating a little bit of difficulty for our core here, making our core work against the band. Nice. Once you've got about 8 to 10, we're going to switch sides. And we're going to get the other side going. So keep on having that same pattern of foot that's away from the anchor point is forward. The other leg is back. We're going from the hip up to the ears on the other side. We're getting about 8 to 10. Good work, everybody. And again, my cue before was maybe thinking about tucking the hips under so that you're not arching your back when you're in this position. You want to try and keep the hips tucked under so you can keep your core nice and strong and avoiding excessive arching in your back. We're going for approximately 8 to 10, and then we're gonna move on. Good work. The exercise number 2 is that single leg with band row. So you're gonna stay with your band. You can either have both hands both bands in one hand, or switch it up to make it a little bit easier. I'm gonna keep both sides of my band in one hand. Standing on my right leg to start, rowing with my left arm. If you found that it was too hard to balance in that first one, you can put that back leg down for a little bit of a kickstand, but try and keep the weight in your front leg as much as possible with your goal of being able to balance and doing this exercise on one leg. Good work, everybody. I got one more here, and then I'm going to switch to the other side, so about 8 to 10, and then switching to the other side. You guys are doing awesome. That's it. And when you're doing this row action, you can think about where are the bottom of your ribs. They're about here. You want to think about driving your elbow through the bottom of your ribs and then your hand also through the bottom of your ribs. So you're trying to keep that line that you're pulling through nice and low. Good work. Challenge yourself. Test being able to pick up that back leg. If you don't have that off the ground already, continue to challenge yourself. Balancing on that left leg now. Good job. All right, our third exercise in our strength circuit, we're going to jump into that mini band. So mini band comes back on. And again, we're going to go down for that squat position where I'm trying to sink my hips down as far as I can, keeping my chest up, and I'm trying to keep a nice flat back as much as I can. Only go as low as you can, keeping your back flat. If you can go all the way down to the ground, keeping your back flat, that's great. You can challenge your range of motion by going as low as you can, rounding your back. If you find that your back starts to round, try and go a little bit less low and just go to the point where you can actually keep your back flat. The goal is to get to approximately 90 degrees where your hips are at the same level as your knees, but that might be an ambitious goal. That might be something that you want to work towards if you're having a hard time keeping your back flat. Again, we're going for about 8 to 10 of these today. And we're really focusing on pushing into the band, pushing the knees into the band so that activates the glutes just a little bit more than a regular squat. Nicely done. I've got one more for 10 here. And then pulling off the band, jumping right back to the top of that circuit for one last run through those exercises. I'm grabbing my band around my anchor point, challenging myself maybe a little bit here by pulling myself a little bit further away from my anchor point. My hands are going from my hip to my opposite ear, and I'm pulling the band across my body. Good work. You can also make this more challenging for your legs by dropping down into a lower position if you want to make this a little bit more challenging. So that's another way that you can add a level of difficulty for the low body if you like, although you don't have to. If you want to stay high, the big focus here is on the core, so that's okay. You can choose your level of difficulty that you want to get to today. Awesome work. We're going for 8 to 10 on each side. I'm gonna do one more here for 10, and then I'm switching over to the other side. You can do your own counting. Keeping that pattern of where your feet are in relation to your anchor point. And try and match the level of depth in your squat that you did on your first side. So if you challenge yourself by going a little bit lower with your legs, to challenge those legs a little bit more, continue to challenge your legs by dropping down in your split squat on this second side as well. Awesome job, everybody. Keep working. You guys are doing great. Nice, strong core, stable, pushing through the bands. And finish up those 8 to 10. I've got my 10 in there, and I'm gonna transition to my single leg band row. So I'm gonna start again on my right leg, a little bit of bend in my right knee, stabilizing, using my quads, glutes, and core to stabilize and hold in this position. My back leg is just floating if I can, and then I'm going for a row here. Hand and elbow driving through the bottom of the ribs. You're using your mid and upper back to feel like your shoulder blade is pulling back behind you. Your shoulder blade wants to connect with your spine. And that's your rhomboids that are doing the primary moving there. So you can really feel those rhomboids work. Again, we're going for approximately 8 to 10 here today. If you want to go a little bit slower or a little bit faster, that's up to you. And once I get my 10, I'm going to switch to the other side. Now I'm on my left leg, that's balancing. My right leg is floating. I'm grabbing onto my band so that I have the right amount of tension, and I'm rowing on the other side now. Awesome job, everyone. Again, you want to continue to think about keeping your core nice and strong, so you want to avoid rounding or arching your back. Nice and neutral core here. Balancing on one leg gets really challenging, so you guys are doing great. Keep that up. We're just adding a little bit of extra here by trying to row with the band while we're standing on one leg. Awesome work. Once you've done those 10, you can drop that band, pick up your mini band. We're gonna put that mini band back on for the last time, our third and last time through our exercise circuit here. And you can challenge yourself. If you have a mirror nearby, you can look into a mirror and see, are you actually keeping your back straight when you drop down? And you want to see as much as possible, try and keep that back straight and get as low as you can. But only go as low as you can, focusing on good form, which for now is that back is straight and you're actually able to push your knees into the band. You don't want your knees to collapse in or feel like they're really not able to stay in line. It's middle of the knees over middle of the toes for this exercise. Good work, everybody. Again, we're going for about 8 to 10 here. Working at a depth and at a rate that works for you. You can think about 1, 2 down, 1, 2 up as being a normal rhythm for this exercise, but you can modify it to make it work for you. All right, I'm gonna do one more here to get my 10, and then I'm done. Awesome work, everybody. You had some great exercises. Hopefully you're feeling like your glutes are really working there. When we are thinking about good hip position, we often need to think about strengthening our glutes and releasing our hip flexors. Our hip flexors often get really tight. So today in our cool down, we're gonna release our hip flexors by doing a little bit of a hip flexor stretch. And that will really complement the glute strengthening work that we've just done. So we're gonna think about tucking the tailbone underneath. And by tucking the tailbone, we're really extending the hip flexor muscles on the knees that's down. And you might even find the hip flexor stretch here is enough. You want to think about the stretch being about a 7 on 10. If it's a 10 on 10, it's like the biggest stretch you've ever felt. If it's a 1 on 10, it's maybe not a stretch at all. We're aiming for about a 7 on 10. So if you get that just from being here, that's great. If not, if you want to get a little bit deeper, you can lean into that hip a little bit. Notice how I'm not arching my back when I do this. I'm really trying to keep my back neutral, my hips tucked under when I'm pressing forward a little bit and getting that deeper hip flexor stretch. You can even switch to bringing your arm up to even further get a deeper hip flexor stretch. And we're going to switch sides after about 30 seconds there. So now I have my other knee back. Again, I'm thinking about tucking my hips under This might be enough. This might be your hip flexor stretch right here, just tucking the hips under. Again, you don't want to feel like it's a crazy intense stretch, just a gentle stretch. If you want a little bit more, you can lean forward, but you can see I'm not doing that much leaning forward. My hip flexors are feeling the pull from just a little bit of extra lean because I'm keeping my hips tucked under. I can get way farther if I arch my back, but that's not the goal for this stretch here. We're trying to keep the hips tucked under and stretch out those hip flexors. If you want to lift up your arm for a little extra stretch, you can. Awesome job. Good work today, everybody. This is our last virtual SkiStrong that we're doing for this block. So I hope that you guys enjoyed our SkiStrong. We have lots of other programs that are running all through December and through the winter. So if you want to check out 2x4coaching.com, we have a lot of fun technique and strength programs running through the winter.